Good evening, everyone. I just want to give everybody a really warm welcome and thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's a real honor and privilege for me to introduce our guest to you tonight. She's Dr. Deborah Viglione, and she's amazing. She's an amazing friend. She, just has a great background and a great heart to help people. She is a part of our LifeVantage Science Advisory Board. She's a former U.S. Air Force physician, and she's going to be speaking about biohacking and nutrigenomics from her experience as an internist. And also, she is an anti-aging doctor and has her own practice. I believe she's sharing with us tonight from her office. She just
see the charts.
A long day at work, and so it's just an honor to have you on here. She's a puppy, so we'll have to bear with her adorable new puppy as well. So
yeah, he's getting into the stuff he shouldn't be getting into.
She's going to share a little bit tonight about our products, business, and then we have an exciting new product coming out. She's going to give us a little briefing on that. So go ahead and take it away, Dr. Viglione. Thanks so much.
All right, great. Thanks for asking me. I'm sorry about the short notice. She was bothering me all summer, and I just couldn't find a time. And so she asked me yesterday, and I was like, I got tomorrow night. So my son's at band. But anyway, I'm going to be telling you about my favorite subject, which is biohacking your way back to health. And I started in traditional internal medicine. And I was actually in the Air Force, did my residency at Keesler Air Force Base in internal medicine, and got fantastic training because we were able to be hands-on and do a lot of things that people don't get to do in civilian residencies, which is probably why I've had the courage to branch out and do some of the things that I've done. But when I got out of the Air Force and I moved back here, I had learned a little bit. We'd been in California, and I'd learned a little bit about natural medicine. I sent somebody to go get their cold or sore throat or whatever they had. And there was just one health food store in town at the time, and they started sending, I called children to my office, and they were coming in, saying, look, I want, herbs or vitamins, to take care of my problems. I don't want drugs. And I knew really next to nothing. I knew just a teeny bit of homeopathy and about a few things that I had learned through my childbirth classes at Edwards Air Force Base. But the health food store kept sending people there, and I began to just do research on my own. I was one of the first physicians to start prescribing bioidentical hormone therapy, and there were just about, I think there were 2 or 3 books at the time. And so a local pharmacist and I worked together, kind of figuring out how to do all of that. So real pioneer in the field. And then over the last 20 plus years, I've just gotten better at it, learn more. And now we actually have societies that we can go and actually get training in integrative medicine. And so I really have a very integrated practice now, or I still do pharmaceuticals when needed, but try to get people better with natural products. So when I found out, well, say for 10 years, they've been talking about 10, 15 years, oxidative stress being the root cause of aging disease. And we've been trying to reduce it by diet, detox. I used to put people through some serious cleanses and things to try to get them healthy and get rid of their autoimmune disease and heal their gut. But that oxidative stress, I still wasn't getting a good handle on it. So I found out about LifeVantage and Protandim NRF2 Synergizer, which is their flagship product, in 2014 at the big world convention in Las Vegas. And I heard the science presented and just flipped out. I was like, I can't believe there is a product that actually does what this does, scientifically proven. And I'm thinking, where has it been? So it was a natural step to get involved, and I'll tell you more about it. I'm going to get my slides up here as we get to it. But it is literally working with this company and this set of products has literally changed everything about what I do in my practice. All right, well, when I started this, we didn't have a name for what I did other than integrative, or actually they called it alternative medicine, which that is really not a nice term. I prefer integrative. And now I'm basically what would be called a biohacker, because I am using science and technology to get at the root of what is wrong with somebody and using that science and technology to get them better. It's a much smarter approach. And nutrigenomics is basically using nutrition to affect your gene expression. And so that's what I do. And when you're doing biohacking, you're actually taking control of your biology, the genes you were dealt with, and how can you effectively improve their expression. And LifeVantage is at the forefront of nutrigenomics and biohacking. So what we're doing that's so different than when you take a vitamin like B12 or something, that's supplementing the body. That's supplementing a pathway. What LifeVantage is striving to do is activate your genes for better expression. And it's a much more powerful tool than supplementation. And that's why it has changed things so much. And I like to just say, you know, in medicine, it's funny. One time they did a study and they said that old physicians never change, and they hated that because they said they bring all this new data up and then they don't change what they're doing. Well, now that I'm an older physician, I get it. Why? Because they change what they say all the time. They go in circles, you know, like, oh, blood pressure is supposed to be this high. Well, then it's supposed to be this high or this high. You know, they're always changing things. Well, now the food pyramid has completely been turned upside down. Now you're supposed to have more of your diet in fats and very little grains, where it used to be all grains. So it just shows you nothing's written in stone when it comes to medicine. But I thought this guy, Thomas Edison, was clearly ahead of his time when he said the doctor of the future is not going to give medicine, but will instruct his patient in the care of the frame, diet, cause, and prevention. And, you know, I get asked all the time, well, does insurance cover this? No, insurance doesn't cover anything anymore. Nothing prevented. It's totally flipped around. In Eastern medicine, they want to help prevent disease and work with the body. Here, it's all about treating disease and not paying for anything that's preventive, which is crazy. But we like to say, if you're not biohacking, you're being hijacked. And I want to show you why, because that's a lot of times we get these questions, well, why do I need these products? I feel fine. Well, you may feel fine now, but something's going to happen later if you're not doing anything about it, because we are being hijacked 24/7 by our environment. And these are all the areas that we are being affected in. So when you are biohacking, you are going to take control of this and become the best version of yourself that you can be. So this just shows you what's happened with diabetes really since 1994, been a huge increase. And you do hear about that on the news, and that they're working with vending machines in the schools trying to improve the diets of kids. But I have a child in high school and was just in middle school, and oh my God, the food is terrible. They consider a meal nachos with meat and chili beans on it. I mean, crazy, and cheese, that's considered a healthy meal. This shows you the incidence of diabetes and chemical production, and we're going to go into it's primarily one particular chemical that seems to be implicated in a lot of the rise in disease that we've seen. And this is showing you the top that goes straight across, those are herbicides, and the red are insecticides, and they've stayed pretty stable over the course of time, but the yellow line is the production of glyphosate, and that is basically the active ingredient in Roundup. And this is what's really being implicated on being the underlying cause of the oxidative stress has gone up so much and poisoning people. And this shows the rise in autism also correlates with the use of glyphosate. You know, Monsanto's just was implicated in Roundup causing disease. We have a new board member, Erin Brockovich, and she told me backstage that Monsanto and their Roundup is on the way out, which is wonderful because it's going to take 10 to 15 years to clean up our soil. This shows the incidence of bile duct cancer. Remember, you know, most of these toxins have to go through the liver and out the bile duct, and that also correlates with Roundup. And you may say, well, I don't use Roundup. Well, you're getting it unless you're eating all organic food, and even some organic food has now been tainted with it because of the GMO manufacture of the crops. Here's the prevalence of Alzheimer's and how that's gone up. And, you know, it's basically 1 in 9 people are getting Alzheimer's dementia now. And this is the deaths, and you see the Roundup is the red line, and the blue line is the genetic modified crops, the GMO crops. And what they're doing is they're modifying these crops to actually make Roundup. And so when you ingest it, you get it in your intestines. And this shows you that you are getting the glyphosate in your food. The wheat is sprayed with it at the end. The high fructose corn syrup, all the corn is now GMO, and soy and anything made from it. So you're getting, you know, either large amounts or trace amounts of the Roundup, and it's actually in the genetic material. So your bacteria in your intestine can, they call it jumping genes, take those genes for Roundup, and you could actually start manufacturing Roundup in your own intestine. So it's just horrifying that they thought this was safe. And this kind of shows you what's going on in your intestine. You may have heard the term leaky gut. And what happens is these first ones, it's not real clear, but you can see that there's these fluorescent green lines, and they're all intact and contiguous. And then you see 6 minutes, 10 minutes, and 60 minutes. This is after eating a hamburger from a corn-fed cow, which they're all corn-fed, unless it says grass-fed. And it has to say 100% grass-fed, because sometimes they'll feed it grass for half of its life and then finish it with corn. Well, that doesn't help anything. But you can see that all these tight junctions are being blown apart. Well, when that happens, all these bad things get into your bloodstream. All these proteins, pesticides, fungus, yeast, Lyme disease, all that's getting in that's not supposed to get in. And so this leaky gut is really causing a lot of problems, causing food allergies, inflammation in the body, autoimmune disease. And this is all lumped together in a term, oxidative stress. So nutrigenomics is now a buzzword. This was what they said on Fox News as the latest trend in nutrition now is using nutrition to express or change your gene expression. And you can get your genes done now. There are various labs that do it. Most of them don't report the whole genome, but some of them do. This just shows you the economic impact that this market is going to reach. Okay, so too many free radicals is causing cellular damage, and it's oxidative stress. And you can see all these things besides Roundup in your environment that are causing DNA damage. This little bean-shaped thing on your left is a mitochondria, and we're going to talk more about that. But those are in all your cells, and that's your primary source of energy. That's where they're produced. Now, this is one that I get on my bandwagon about besides Roundup, is the cell phone radiation. And it's not just cell phones, so you get it off your computers, your TVs, but the cell phones are the real bad source of it, Bluetooth. And the 5G is going to be a really big problem because it's a shorter wavelength, and they're going to require more towers closer together, and it's radiating people, and it's just awful. The various organizations are fighting this, and I hope that we successfully do it. But I know that, like, here in my office, I have a 5G for my Wi-Fi. And I think, well, I have one at home and other people do, but some people are really, really sensitive to this. Other people aren't, but this is really something that we need to lobby against. We don't have to have the fastest internet ever. And this just kind of shows you all of the different organs and how they're affected and the various diseases that oxidative stress causes. Now, we're a nutritional company and we have a nutritional supplement. And so there's rules when you're talking about it. When you're talking about a drug is manufactured for a specific disease, and it has to go through a process with the FDA. With a nutritional supplement, you are immune from that, but in return for that, you can't make any claims about disease unless they have been reviewed by the FDA. And so a lot of people say, well, why don't you have double-blind placebo-controlled studies on your product in humans? Well, they're not allowed to do that because you can't study disease. You could do it in like healthy people, but that's real difficult. And so you have to do it in animals, or you have to do it in tissue culture. So if you find a double-blind placebo-controlled study of a nutritional supplement in a disease, when you pull the paper, you'll find out it was done outside of this country. Okay. So this just shows you when you have chronic oxidative stress, you have chronic inflammation. Now, when you like break your arm, you get inflammation. It's a healing inflammation because it's going to put that bone back together. But when you have chronic oxidative stress, you're causing chronic inflammation. Well, that ends up doing more cellular damage, and eventually you're going to come down with organ damage and a disease. And it's also the root cause of aging. Okay, so when I was at that conference in Las Vegas, they were presenting data on Protandim NRF2 Synergizer. And when they showed that statistic that it was proven to lower oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days, I literally about fell out of my chair because I was like, there is nothing out there that can do this. And this statement has been reviewed by the FDA, and we are allowed to say it because it's been absolutely proven. And the statistical significance of this, the p-value, I think there's 4 zeros or 5 zeros before the 1. I mean, it's huge. And when you reduce oxidative stress, the body is able to heal itself. And what's interesting about this, all these ingredients you see at the bottom, I were using in my clinic. And I'm like, well, why don't you just take those? Well, one, if you're going to buy 5 bottles, it's going to cost you a whole lot more. But there is a unique synergy. That's why they call it a synergizer to this product. And when you, in the precise combination, kind of like if you're making a cake, if you throw the ingredients off by the amount, you're not going to end up with a pretty cake. You may end up with slop or whatever. Well, if you give too much of one of these ingredients, it also doesn't work the same way. When you take one of these, it's the synergy that then activates a pathway called NRF2. And when you activate NRF2 in the nucleus of the cell, it then activates over 500 more genes in the body that are health-related genes. So it starts kind of a cascade, a chain reaction, and you get a tremendous reduction in oxidative stress. So basically, the body has this pathway in it to get rid of free radicals, because you wouldn't be alive without this, because when you take like a vitamin C or a vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, you only knock out 1 free radical at a time. So your body's literally making millions every second. Well, when you activate this NRF2 pathway, you're also knocking out millions of free radicals every second in every cell. So it's absolutely huge. So when I heard about this, I could not wait to get my patients on it, and knew that it was going to change everything about what I did, because when you're getting the root cause, the body's going to start healing. And it has been just the most fantastic journey over the last 4 years, watching my patients heal. It's just been amazing. I tell people I see more miracles in the last 4 years than in my entire career. It's awesome. Now you're going to start hearing some stuff as I talk later. It's funny because the company is so scared, not scared, but just cautious of the FDA, because they don't like the fact that we have such a powerful nutritional activator. And words like autophagy, I brought them up a couple of years ago. Well, talking about it more because it's become a buzzword out in the public. But autophagy is the removal of waste from the body, and the Nobel Prize was awarded to somebody a couple of years ago for his work in that, because that's considered a huge part of reducing the aging process and diseases, being able to get rid of that. Also, mitochondrial biogenesis, which is just the production of more mitochondria, that is a area that's being concentrated on for anti-aging. Okay, so this just shows you, this product has literally been out since about 2003-4. It was a failure of marketing, basically. It was ahead of its time, and they didn't even understand how it worked. All they knew when it came out was that it reduced or upregulated 2 enzymes, catalase, superoxide dismutase, that gobble up free radicals. That's all they knew what it did. Now we know much more about it, and I won't go into a lot of it, but you can find studies on this on PubMed, and these are all major institutions, universities. The only studies that were done by the company were the initial ones proving the synergy to get the patent. So this is amazing. There is no other branded nutritional supplement that has these kind of studies behind it. It's also been featured in the media, and in books, but you can see it's heavily patented, which is pretty awesome, especially if you want to get into this for a business, because we'll be in business for a while. All right, now I'm not going to go into this, because what I wanted to do is go to the next one. Then about 2.5, 3 years ago, we came up with another NRF2 or NRF synergizer. It's NRF1. And again, it's a precise combination of the ingredients that's activating NRF1 pathway. Now, that is the main pathway that boosts mitochondria production, or the mitochondrial biogenesis, and helps them network together, and also repairs them. So The purpose of this is to increase your energy, which is ATP in the body. These two pathways, NRF1 and NRF2, actually work together. So together, each product works better than by itself. And I showed you before that mitochondrial biogenesis is one of the areas that they're really looking at to improve our aging. Actually, you slow down, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about energy when I get to the third product. But this has been tremendous. And when I added this NRF1, one of the things that NRF2 does is helps get rid of toxins, heavy metals, pesticides, poisons. And that can be a painful process, especially if it's slow, because the body may feel sicker before it gets better. Well, when I added the NRF1, the body was much more streamlined and able to get rid of the toxins faster and without all the side effects, because you're giving the body energy to get rid of the waste, which is autophagy. So you're actually stimulating autophagy as well with the NRF1. Now, well, I'm going to go, I think that's all I want to say there. Yeah, I'm going to go into the new product now. So I'm going to stop sharing out the other. Because now we have a third gene activator. We have some other amazing, amazing products. They're not gene activators, though. They're more in the line of supplementation, but working to heal the gut and to reduce inflammation. We have a hair care, we have a skincare product. Now, the skincare product does have the gene activators, so does the hair care, but you might want to get with whoever brought you to this presentation to talk about them, because they are absolutely amazing, but we really don't have time because I want to share this with you. Okay, so let's get to the beginning of this one. This is interesting because I'm on the scientific advisory board. They were so tight-lipped about this product. I still don't know everything I want to know about it, and I think it's because they're going to present it in a couple of weeks at the Elite Academy. So this is a third of our gene activators, and it's called Protandim NAD Synergizer. And I've actually been on this product for a little over 2 months. They let the scientific advisory board try it, and I can tell you, I felt it a little bit with the first dose, but with the second dose, I definitely felt it. Sorry, did you see the sign? Oh, sorry. Okay, where was I? Okay, so I felt it, but by the third day, my brain was so on and the energy was amazing. And it hasn't stopped. I love it. All right. All right, we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so NAD is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. And from now on, we call it NAD. You're not supposed to say NAD, you just say NAD. And it exists in two forms, NAD, NADH. Now, you've probably seen supplements out there that were NADH for about $10 a bottle. That gets degraded in the stomach acid, does absolutely nothing. There are some NAD products, and I'll talk about it. But one of the things NAD does is activate a class of proteins called sirtuins, which are anti-aging genes. Now, I'm going in a little biology here. This top part is just your food, basically, and then there's a step called acetyl-CoA that starts the whole energy chain reaction. That's where CoQ10 is a cofactor in there, and that's also where statins block it. And so if you've ever been on a statin or you know somebody that's on a statin, one of the side effects can be muscle pain and weakness and decreased energy because you're blocking the big rate limiting step in energy production. So then after that, you go into what's called the Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, and NAD is a cofactor in that reaction. So if you don't have NAD, you can't make energy. I mean, that is how vital NAD is. And then it goes down into the mitochondria that we talked about, and you generate more ATP. So it's fundamental. And you start losing your NAD starting about age 40. And that's really when people start feeling that drop off in energy. And it just gets worse with every decade. This is a big pathway, but I wanted you to kind of look, because there's some things I want to stress about this. Okay, so you at the top, you see your NAD, you see nicotinamide, and then you see this NAMPT. Okay, so the products on the market that are supposed to increase NAD are nicotinamide riboside. And there's a patented one called Niagen that has a really nice study showing that they increase the production of NAD. So if you start searching NAD on the internet, you're going to start seeing advertisements for these products, True Niagen and Basis, and it all looks really good. But this NAMPT is a rate limiting step in the manufacture of NAD. So you can only up-regulate that NAD a certain amount because of that rate limiting step. Our product bypasses that step, so it's not rate limiting. When you have NAD, the next slide probably shows this a little bit better, but you can see this PARP, that has to do with DNA repair and cell death. This P53 has to do with tumors and proliferation of cells. The SIRT1, that's a good thing, and that helps with metabolism. And that's kind of it. My next slide explains it a little bit better. So when you have NAD around, you're activating your SIRT genes. There's more than just one. And this AMPK, if you're into intermittent fasting or you're into weight loss products, like, I don't know if you can see this. This is one I bought from Life Extension. It's AMPK activator because it's supposed to mimic the effects of fasting or intermittent fasting. I couldn't felt anything with that. But anyway, it's a big buzzword. You want to activate that. Well, guess what? When you take this NAD synergizer, you're going to activate that. So you're going to mimic the effects of fasting without having to fast. But when you activate these SIRT genes, there's another one here, this PGC1 alpha. That is another buzzword you're going to hear because the workout people and the people that are making these energy supplements are actually putting that in there. A lot of bodybuilders that do pre-workout and post-workout, this is in there. And that's because they're trying to increase the energy from mitochondria and try to get you to break down your fats and your sugars for energy. Then these other ones where you see the line that blocks it, that's blocking inflammation. NF-kappa beta is a bad inflammatory product, and the P53 is important to suppress tumors. Okay, and then, yeah, that's basically all you need to know. The AMPK is also helping you make more mitochondria, break down your fats, increase your insulin sensitivity. So all this is good. Okay, so the sirtuins, that activity declines about 60% as you age. And if you fast for 72 hours, you can upregulate your NAD and then your sirtuin activity by 94%. But who wants to fast for 72 hours? I mean, that's pathetic. Ugh. A lot of people are doing the intermittent fasting, and that is upregulating the NAD. But again, that's eating in an 8-hour window and fasting the rest of the time, and that's still not very fun, although it's preferable to the 72-hour thing. There's actually a group like nationwide that is calorie restriction. And calorie restriction has been the only way to extend life until there was a study by the National Institute on Aging in 2016. Calorie restriction, a drug called rapamycin, and guess what? Protandim NRF2 synergizers were the only things that were shown to extend life. I would prefer to take protandim than the other two. So this is the really cool thing. Our company actually has been working on this product for several years. Of course, none of us knew anything about it. And so these other products came to market before we did. And we studied our product against the leading competitor. And in 24 hours, we upregulated NAD production 100%. Our competitor did it 2%. And remember, that rate limiting step is what's setting us apart. And calorie restriction for 72 hours did it 94%. So this is absolutely huge. We are like way beyond anything else out on the market. In fact, I had, because I was feeling so great with this, and one of my patients came in and he was on an NADH product over the counter, and I said, "You're wasting your money." And so I had him buy the other competitor, and I said, "You're going to be a little guinea pig for me because I want to see how you feel." And he came in 2 weeks later and he goes, "What am I supposed to feel on this?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Are you feeling anything?" He says, "No." I said, "Well, don't buy another bottle because ours is coming out in a month." Anyway, so this is what's in our new Synergizer. And I don't know a lot about any of these products really yet. This olive leaf extract, I do know, but I have used that predominantly in my practice as an antiviral. So I'm hoping that a side thing of our product will be more resistant to viruses, yeast, fungus, and things like that. But it does help promote a healthy lipid profile as well, and it's supporting autophagy on its own. Again, this is kind of a synergy between all of them. This theacrine or teacrine is similar to caffeine, and I think that's why we feel an effect so quickly with this product. But unlike caffeine, you don't get a tolerance to it, and you don't have the jitteriness. And I don't think I felt any heart palpitations at all from it. But I believe that's probably why we feel it so quickly. And the cuprous niacin is somebody was asking, well, is it nicotinamide? Is it niacinamide? No, it's not. It's cuprous niacin, which has a more reactive form of copper in it, which I guess is the fundamental of why this product is so different. Anyway, so that's what's in it. And that just says on the label. You take 2 capsules a day. You want to take it first thing in the morning because it can upset your sleep. And it did. I still don't think I'm sleeping as solid as I was prior to being on it. I'm waking up much earlier in the morning. Sometimes I don't like that because I don't want to wake up so early, but I'm really requiring less sleep is what it boils down to. And so I take it first thing in the morning, but you do have to have a little bit of food because it kind of can upset your stomach. And these are the benefits of NAD. And I would have to say, well, I don't know about my inflammation response. It's already really low because I'm already activated and my cholesterol's always been good, but I can definitely say those first 3, let's say, that I felt that. And I guess it was a little bit longer on the physical energy, but I've noticed that especially my HIIT workouts in the gym, I'm doing them faster to do. All right, series of aging and trying to prevent disease. Dog's digging for something. So we want to hit the oxidative stress with an antioxidant response element. We want to work on the mitochondria, and really the NRF2 and NRF1 and the NAD are all working together to improve that mitochondria. But having been on the NRF1 and now adding the NAD, there's a huge increase in energy beyond that I noticed with the NRF1. And then of course the other benefits of the sirtuins. And I think we're on the tip of the iceberg. We're going to find out this does so much more over time. And so they're calling this the Tri-Synergizer, and they're going to sell these products as a discount together as opposed to doing them separately. So right now, I believe we can get it for $50 for the end of the year, but it's going to be $55.99 ultimately. Yeah, this is the introductory price. So I'm buying a bunch when we go to the EA. In fact, my husband was today, he goes, well, since you're going to get some of that, can I please start taking this tomorrow? I was like, I got to count my pills, make sure I've got enough. It's funny because I've had so many people want this from me, and I was like, no, you can't have it. I couldn't tell them what it was, but they could see what it was doing for me. Okay, so I guess the Tri-Synergizer is going to be $125 for the 3 of them. And that's if you're on the other. And then they have something called the Ultimate Stack. If you're doing everything biohacking to the extreme, which is awesome, and taking our prebiotic, our probiotic, the omega-3, and then the 3 gene stimulators. I mean, this is ultimately the best program that you can do for biohacking. All right, so I think that's all I have. If you guys, oh no, I wanted to show this. Okay, so the code name they had for this before it came out was Super 7, and I thought, well, some people were going to ask me, well, you're talking about sirtuins, what other genes is it affecting? And this was a study that came out in 2019, so it was this year, and they were looking at NAD's effect on these various genes, and so there were 7 of them, so that's what I figure they must have been talking about. Again, we're going to find out more at the Lead Academy when our science officer tells about it, but these are all good things. Downregulating inflammation, upregulating autophagy, the P27. Again, you want to slow down cell division because one, you don't want to get cancer, but if your cells are dying and you're having to replace them, then you got a problem because why are your cells dying? Okay, and then I kind of wanted to put it together, and I need to find a better one where I can draw in the slide, but there's that AMPK that I was talking about. What mTOR, you want to keep that in balance and down, and rapamycin, the drug that extended life, was an mTOR inhibitor. So it's good. You don't want to completely block because you need that for building up, but that is one of the problems with aging. I guess you get out of balance. So the AMPK, when you activate that with NAD, you're actually bringing mTOR down. Well, the NRF1 helps give you the energy for the autophagy, and the NRF2 is, there's the AMPK, and it would be on this line right here in the middle that goes to mTOR. So NRF2 is actually bringing mTOR down as well. So it's kind of neat to show how it all works together. All right, so now we'll take questions.
I actually just started it today. So
did you feel anything today?
I felt like, maybe just a little bit more motivation, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
So
I flushed a little bit the first time. I took it about noon, and I had to take off my coat.
Oh, okay.
Because we were in that cold area in the not stadium, but Coliseum that we were in. And
Okay.
because people are going to ask, do you get a niacin flush? It's nothing like the other forms of niacin does, but I do sometimes feel a little bit warm or a little bit flushed on my face. So
Okay.
that's mild. So I didn't know if you felt that.
No, I didn't feel anything like that. But I do have one question. I saw somewhere that it resets your metabolism.
That's that AMPK thing and the intermittent fasting. Like
Okay.
there's a product called Prolon that it's some diet that you do for 5 days. You take their products, and they say it's the same as fasting, like for 3 months, and it resets your metabolism. But it's all about upregulating that AMPK. So if we are upregulating NAD, which directly stimulates that, we know we're doing that.
Okay. So
This other thing didn't do squat.
I've had people ask me, do you think this is going to help with weight management?
I don't see how it could help, but not. Now, I haven't noticed any weight loss with it, but I didn't really have, a lot to lose anyway. So it'll be interesting to see, because I think, if you combine that with our fat burn, you may get some results. But I did try this with some people with our fat burn, and they didn't see much. So we'll see. But I mean, if intermittent fasting helps people lose weight, I don't see why this wouldn't.
Julie, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm thinking about some of my customers and that I will go to and introduce. And I already know in advance, some of my customers are financially challenged, and they are on, for example, NERF 1 and 2 now. So I already know they're going to say, well, can I take this in place of whatever? So this is my question. At the very least, and if they want to introduce this but just couldn't afford the 3, which other Protandim would you recommend that they would take with the NAD, NERF 1 or NERF 2?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot because I know that people are going to be in that situation. And I think that this new product's going to take us to $1 billion company very fast, as everybody's looking for more energy, more brain power. And I feel it more in the brain than the physical, but everybody's doing it. The monster drinks and all that stuff. People are going nuts over stuff, and everybody wants to be on Adderall. So I think that product is going to take off, and people are going to want that more than they want anything else because of the way they feel. And the study was in a placebo group, so it wasn't in people that were already activated, but you need that NRF2 for the oxidative stress. I feel like if I to choose, I would do the NAD and the NRF2 and leave off the 1. But I don't, the best thing you can is to do all 3.
Of course.
I'd leave off the fish oil. Calorie stack, I would leave that off and take the 3 gene activators, because you're going to reduce inflammation, with these. That fish oil is still good, and it's nice to have, especially if you eat a lot of omega-6s like I do, because I love meat. But that's the one I would drop. And I think price-wise, aren't they about the same?
Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Can somebody who has the MTHFR, will they be able to take?
Well, I've got a double gene on the MTHFR, and I'm going to address that in my Facebook group. And I was looking up NAD methylation, and nothing really came up other than, the niacin. And Ben Lynch and people like that say that niacin inhibits methylation and it brings it down. And I don't agree with that. What niacin does is help your body when you're the detox pathway, because when you methylate some poisons, you actually immobilize and make it a little more toxic. But the niacin actually helps the whole process of the liver getting rid of things. So I think when you take the niacin, you're actually relieving symptoms of what they think is overmethylation, where I think it's just toxins are building up and you can't get them out. It helps actually facilitate the process of getting them out, which is what I think NRF1 does so well. And I, of course, I'm a poor methylator, and I'm taking this, and I cannot believe how great it makes me feel. So there's no one that can convince me it's ruining my methylation.
Great. And do you see if there's any other kind of disorders or diseases that should not be taking the NAD that you can think of?
No, I mean, I guess we're going to find out. Now, we did get one question as a team. One person said she was profoundly fatigued, never felt that tired before, and she was on day 3 of this. But then they asked her, did you have problems when you started NRF1? And she did. Because, some people that have had trouble with the whole mitochondrial thing, and I'm going to say they have some quirk in their system that's different than other people. I think they'll be able to do it. But again, like my puppy sleeps more hours than he's awake when he's growing and building, and these people may have something. So when they get into that growth mode and they're building more, they're just profoundly sleepy. So they may have to go a little slower with it. But I think ultimately they're going to see the benefits just like they did with NRF1.
And so the benefit is also going to be that this is 2 pills. So if somebody's having an issue, they can just take 1.
Right. Now, the study that was done on the competitive nicotinamide riboside, when they doubled the dose, they doubled the production of NAD. So one of the things I want to do with our Synergizer is try taking 3 and 4 just to see what it does.
Mm.
But I didn't have enough pills to do that yet.
Great. Thank you so much.
Jacked up. I mean, I may not be able to sleep. I don't know. I just want to sleep.
Thank you.
The difference between the effects of NAD and Axio, is one preferable over the other?
Okay, so when I first started this, I did not feel the need for Axio, but I love Axio, so I've kind of gotten addicted. I just want it. But what I've noticed is it gives me a little edge above and beyond what the other does. So the others raise my baseline. So now when I do the Axio, I've actually elevated it even more. So I've gone back to drinking too, cocaine addict, because I like that up feeling, so I will still do an Axio. I don't know if you guys did that chronotype quiz, but I'm a lion, so I get up early. About 2 o'clock, I start to hit a slump, and the slump is not in anything like it was prior to the NAD, but that Axio will still, pump me up more. So I like it, but people have reduced their Axio intake and their caffeine intake. I certainly don't have to have it, but I still like it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Viglione. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy
You're
schedule.
welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Okay. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.